Welcome, one and all, to Dreadful Frights at the Backlot, Perth, presented by Perth horror fans. I am your host, Soxy the Salacious Spectre. We begin tonight by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging leaders. Tonight's feature presentation is Interview with the Vampire. This American Gothic horror film from Irish director Neil Jordan, who is also a highly accomplished screenwriter and award-winning novelist, was adapted from the Anne Rice novel of the same name. After receiving multiple rejections, the novel itself was eventually published in 1976 and was a debut for the author, who based it on a short story she'd written around 1968 and composed it shortly after the tragic death of her daughter Michelle, who served as the inspiration for the child vampire character Claudia. Once the book was finally published, it initially received mixed reviews from the critics, but was soon followed by many popular sequels, collectively known as the Vampire Chronicles, and has since been adapted into a Japanese manga, a graphic novel, and was serialized in both Animage and Shara magazines, as well as the 1994 film you are about to see tonight, and most recently, a television series which premiered in 2022. Sadly, Anne Rice passed away before being able to oversee its production. Anne Rice's book and characters have been referenced in many aspects of the arts over the years, and was the inspiration behind the names of both the Australian pop band Savage Garden and the Italian gothic metal band Theatres des Vampires. And there was even a 2006 Broadway musical composed by Elton John based upon the character of Lestat, who was based on Anne Rice's husband Stan. The rights to Rice's novel were first purchased by Paramount Pictures in April of 1976, shortly before its publication. But the script lingered on for years, with the rights being sold to Larimar, before finally ending up with Warner Brothers, where Neil Jordan accepted the task of directing the film under the condition that he would be able to write his own script, which was granted. However, he was not credited. Thanks to producer David Geffen, the film was given a budget of $70 million, which was unusual for the time, as most vampire movies were traditionally made on a shoestring budget with rudimentary sets. And the famed role of Claudia was given to Kirsten Dunst, who was spotted by talent scouts at the age of 10 and was the first girl tested for the role. Initially, Rice adapted her novel into a screenplay with French actor Alain Delon in mind for the role of Louis, and Rutger Hauer in mind as Lestat. Later on, Anne approached Tom Hanks for the part. However, he turned it down in order to star in 1994's Forrest Gump. When the film entered the casting stage, British actor Julian Sands was championed by Anne to play Lestat. However, Because Sands was not a big name at the time, he was rejected and the role was given to Daniel Day-Lewis, who dropped out 2 weeks before filming. And after Johnny Depp turned it down, the role was finally given to Tom Cruise, who famously had to stand on an elevated platform during scenes to reduce the height difference between his character and the other vampires, and received a record $10 million salary plus a percentage of the profits. At first, Rice was extremely unhappy with this choice of casting, saying that she couldn't imagine how Cruise could possibly carry the part, and referred to his casting as the worst crime in the name of casting since 1990's The Bonfire of the Vanities. But after seeing the finalized film, Rice was so impressed by Cruise's performance that she wrote him a letter of apology and recorded a 2-minute video endorsing the film that was included on a pre-feature on mid-1990s VHS releases of the film. In fact, Rice was so pleased with the adaptation that she took out a 2-page ad in both Vanity Fair and the New York Times endorsing it as a masterpiece. After a lengthy process, it was decided that the role of Lewis would go to Brad Pitt, who admitted that he'd tried to buy himself out of the role as he was only given 2 weeks' notice prior to filming and became miserable with 6 months of mostly shooting in the darkness of night in midwinter London, which sent him into a spiraling depression. During filming, tensions were high between Cruise and Pitt, with each accusing the other of poor hygiene, and have since refused to work together ever again. The technique used to stencil the translucent blue veins onto the actors' faces would not have helped matters either, as it required the actors to hang upside down for 30 minutes so their blood would rush to their heads and cause their veins to protrude, enabling the makeup artist to trace realistic patterns, and due to the secrecy surrounding their makeup effects, tunnels were constructed to escort the actors to and from the sets in order to ensure they remained private. This was almost a very different film, as due to her perception of Hollywood's homophobia at one point in time, Rice drafted a copy in which the part of Lewis had been changed to a female in order to heterosexualize the character's relationship with Lestat, as at the time, Rice felt it was the only way the film might be made, with singer-actress Cher being considered for the part, and the song titled Lovers Forever, which Cher wrote along with Shirley Urquhart for the film's soundtrack, was rejected due to Pitt being chosen for the role. However, a dance pop version of the song was finally released on Cher's 2013 album, Close to the Truth. Originally, the role of Daniel Malloy was written for River Phoenix, but he tragically passed away at the age of 23, 4 weeks before he was due to begin filming. And eventually the role was passed to Christian Slater, who donated his entire salary to Phoenix's favorite charity. Phoenix's then girlfriend was Samantha Mathis, who happened to be Slater's ex. The film has a dedication to Phoenix after the end of the credits. Interview with the Vampire went on to be the first film to ever win Best Horror Film at the International Horror Guild Awards in 1995, along with many other awards and nominations in popular ceremonies of the time. And in 2007, the Italian horror film L'Isola dei Morti Viventi, translated in English to Island of the Dead, infamously had scenes from the film edited into it. And now, interview with the Vampire Chronicles.